Okay, everybody, I am sitting here with the one and only Devereaux Cannick, the attorney who has represented Robert Sylvester Kelly. We're still yelling "Free R. Kelly" because it's not over until it's over, and the fat lady has not sung. This is just the beginning, so stay tuned for more. I will bring you guys everything I get when I get it. I'm going to stay in communications with the legal team, and I will be keeping you guys updated as I am updated. So I'm going to let him introduce himself this time. You guys know I call him mechanic because he is my mechanic, and that will never ever change. So with that being said, go ahead and introduce yourself and let them know who you are.
Okay, thank you. I'm Devereaux Cannick, and it was my pleasure to represent Rob. I got involved in his case in, I think, June 21st, and had to get caught up to speed and be ready to try the case as if I was on it from day one. We got a setback today. We are disappointed that the jury didn't see the evidence the way that we saw it and heard the evidence that we heard. But we're not dismayed. We're more, I don't know which one I'm most disappointed in. Is it verdict from the jury or the government's perpetuation of the fraud? This is a case where the government interviewed witnesses, and each and every one of those witnesses they interviewed gave at least five different scenarios, and there were just inconsistent statements. Their paperwork were replete with inconsistent statements, and it seems as though the government picked the statement that was closer to the narrative that they heard and that they wanted to perpetuate, and that's what they argued to the jury. Their argument to the jury was totally inconsistent. I don't think it was a credible prosecution, and hopefully the Court of Appeals will agree with it on it. I don't think the court is going to sanction that type of behavior by any prosecution, and I think that when you, just because you want to get R. Kelly, you have to do it fairly, and you have to do it in accordance with the law. And a trial is supposed to be search for the truth, and that's not what we got here. So again, I would ask you to stay in prayer for Robert. He's disappointed in the outcome, but he knew that he was in an uphill battle because of the narrative that was put forth by the media, and that instead of fighting the court and the case in the courtroom, he had to also fight the court of public opinion because, frankly, a lot of folks believe what they were hearing from surviving R. Kelly, a fiction, and they came to the court with that background, and it made an uphill battle. But I think that when you really look at the testimony in the case, you would conclude that, you know what, I don't know what these people were listening to, I don't know what they were looking at, because the witnesses were, as far as I'm concerned, totally discredited. And hopefully the Court of Appeals will see it that way. I'll be visiting Robert on Wednesday. Unfortunately, we can't get to see him tomorrow, but I'll see him on Wednesday, and I will let him know that his support base is still here for him, and they will be supporting him throughout the process. Again, this is round one. We didn't get what we want round one, so now we have to go to another source, and hopefully that source is going to be one that's more objective and look at the case from the standpoint that the case has to be one that's credible and the integrity should be there, and we'll point out all those things that I just mentioned to you to the Court of Appeals.
Awesome. Do you see any comments in
Thank
the
you.
chat that you see any questions in the chat that they may be
I
asking?
With these glasses, I can barely see. I have to take them off. Then, oh, let's see.
Okay, okay. Let me look at the chat, see if they're saying anything. They thank you so much for coming on the platform. They said thank you, Cannon, for all your hard work. Stay strong, Cannon. They had to get a conviction because they know a lot of people would have been sued. Okay. How was the judge allowed to take the case with her? How was the judge allowed to? How was the judge allowed to take the case with her affiliation with the documentary?
I don't know if the judge has an affiliation with the documentary. I'm pretty sure she doesn't. But judges are generally selected from a wheel. They get their names get pulled from the wheel and they get assigned the case. I would imagine that's what happened here. But of course, I wasn't in involved when the case was assigned to her 2 years ago. So I'm speculating, but knowing how the system is supposed to work, she was pulled from the wheel and she became the district judge that was assigned to handle this
Was
case.
she appointed by Obama administration?
Yeah, I think she was an Obama.
She was appointed by Obama. How? Okay, so let's see if there's any other questions. Um, can you answer the question, how come they will call Jane Doe and John Doe when that's what the coroners and the medical examiner says when they cannot identify a person?
It's a very good question. So everyone knows that Jane Doe has um, Clary, and everyone knows who all the Jane Does are. But the government wanted to perpetuate the fraud that these people were trying to shed and shield their identities so that they would not receive um, repercussion from society in general. So they went along with the narrative, let's call them Jane Doe, by saying, well, we don't want to give up their identity, but these people are all over social media and television, radio, and they've identified themselves. But they made the application to the court to testify in the pseudonym Jane Doe, and the court, based on the representation that the government made, agreed to allow it.
Okay, let's see if we have any other questions. What can we do to help R. Kelly at this point besides prayer, other than prayer?
I think prayer is what he needs. Prayer and the continued support. He's very encouraged by the letters that he gets. I would ask you to write him letters. Let him know that you're out there. Let him know that you're supporting him. And let him know that you don't believe what was put out there. But frankly, I can't believe that these people who are supposed victims, who live off of him for year after year, living the lifestyle, and agreeing to be involved in the lifestyle, and came here and told the jury, well, he made me do it. I didn't want to do it. They were a part of a relationship. But I think what you have to keep in mind, and to me this is so important, is that they had to tell those lies, because if they told the truth, then their relevance would be over. They wouldn't have any relevance. They won't have an ability to monetize off of his name, because if it's a situation where the jury came back and said, well, not guilty, then how else are they going to sustain themselves? Because they have no skills. They had no other way of making money. So they had to perpetuate this narrative in order to keep this lie alive. And the prosecutor eagerly bought into it so they could get a pelt on their back saying that we got R. Kelly.
Do you believe that his civil rights were violated?
Well, I certainly do. I think that when the system um, is really assisting in a fraudulent effort, I can't help but to believe that not only his civil rights were violated, but his constitutional rights were violated.
Oh, go ahead.
Get on?
Let him, please.
Mr. Scholar, there's a few questions for you. Can you introduce yourself?
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, let me. Okay, sorry about that, you guys. I'm back. So I'm going to have another one of R. Kelly's attorneys come in and speak with us. His name is Calvin Scholar, and he's going to answer a few questions for us as well. And he's going to tell us about his stance in this fight for Robert Sylvester Kelly, and the disappointment that we're all feeling right now. I wanted to bring this to you guys live and direct because I have been on the forefront from the very beginning. I'm a true supporter. I believe in his innocence. I believe that the system has failed him today. I believe that the injustice system is just not in our favor of people in general. You know what I'm trying to say, but I won't go all into detail. If you guys have any questions, I'm going to let him introduce himself, but this is Calvin Scholar. He's another attorney that was fighting for Robert Sylvester Kelly. Please let them know who you are.
Good evening. I'm Calvin Scholar. I'm one of Mr. Kelly's attorneys.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so some of the questions that they have is that everyone who got on stand, do you believe that they told the truth, or do you think that they were lying?
I think that through the cross-examination, it revealed that they told different stories at different times. And I think that the only way you can prove is that they were not telling the truth when they hit the stand. And I think that was shown through cross-examination.
Thank you. Another question that is out is that do you think the judge was in error changing the language to the jury at the end?
Well, we made our point that we thought that the way the statute was being interpreted was not in keeping with what should be given to the jury at that point in time. Uh, Basically, giving the jury the option to find them guilty on one or both of those choices without indicating that they had to be unanimous. I think that was an issue. And, fortunately, they found that racketeering act not to be proven. So it worked out in the end. But it was something that we argued very forcefully to try to correct.
And the next question we have is, have you done? You have done an amazing job with. Wait, I'm sorry, I went fast. You have done an amazing job with the case. I know it's a difficult case to handle, but you stood by R. Kelly all the way. That's a compliment to you all. When will R. Kelly be able to appeal his charges?
Well, we'll start discussing with him as early as this week, and that will be something that we will definitely look at. But right now, the next step is to make a motion to have the judge reconsider the verdict, and then after that, we have to deal with sentencing if he doesn't grant our motion. So we have a couple steps before that we have to get through also.
And then there's another question is, well, I think he asked the appeal question. Asked why the motion to dismiss the indictment was filed due to perjury testimonies.
Well, that's one of as far as it's for the motion to dismiss, it has to be based on sufficiency of the evidence. So basically, we will phrase it that way: that the evidence that was used to convict was not sufficient in the eyes of the law.
Okay, and then there's another question. Will you work? I'm not gonna ask that one. Ask him about. Wait. I'm sorry. Are we gonna? Are we? No, I wouldn't know that. He wouldn't know that. How did the case get to New York when the alleged acts did not occur there?
Well, for federal law, as long as any act goes through this circuit, this district, the what they call venue is proper. So in this situation, there were certain trips that were made to New York, as alleged by some of the witnesses, and because some of those trips happened either in the surrounding waters of the Eastern District or through the Eastern District, that's how the Eastern District becomes a proper place for venue in this case. So.
Good information. Okay. Ask him about the judge. Do you think the judge was being biased at all?
You gotta take it as it comes. You don't get to pick your judge, just like you don't get to pick your friends or your family. You just try the case as it comes, and you play the hand that you're dealt.
Do you feel they said they wish you guys were on the case in the beginning? They want to know what they can do to help. Can you okay? What can you do? What can we do to help?
Just make sure that you maintain the same vigilance to to speak out, basically about the injustice of the verdict, to let the government know that that this is something that was wrong. It was wrong. This is an injustice. So speak out against it. Protest. Just speak out against this verdict because it was not a just verdict.
Absolutely. Can you request a different judge?
No, we won't be requesting a different judge. At this point, like I said before, this is the judge that we've been in front of. This is the judge that we will definitely continue to be in front of. And we have a couple different steps that we have to do before we finish and we move on to the next stage. But all those steps have to be in front of this judge. So we have to act accordingly.
Can you tell us some of the steps that needs to be taken?
Again, the next step is the next step will definitely be a motion to basically like have the judge revisit or reconsider the verdict, and arguing that the evidence was insufficient and some of the counts were not proven with the evidence of the trial. So.
That was my question. They still want to know how can they help. He just explained that. Let's see. Will the defense have more witnesses in the appeal case?
That's something that we'll have to consider. Again, we haven't gotten to that stage yet. We're just focused on the next step so that we can make sure that everything is done 100% according to whatever the next step is going to be. So.
Let's see. They want to know, is there a financial need for Mr. Kelly?
At this time, we're going to be dealing with Mr. Kelly, and we'll speak to him about, where we go from here. We're not going to speak about his finances at this point in time. Okay.
Can we send any evidence of conflicting stories?
I'm not sure, at this point where those stories would be coming from. We're basically bound by the rules of evidence, and at this point, if there's new evidence, we may be able to advance that or bring that before this court. But we have to make sure that evidence was actually solid evidence before we propose anything else to the court.
I want to know, will we see any updates regarding his appeal?
Of course, everything that we do will be, public. So we will make sure that the public stays aware of everything that happens from this point on to this case. I just want to say, as far as when I said that wasn't a just verdict, what I mean is that anytime a jury of 12 people decide unanimously on a decision, it's a just verdict. It's a verdict that's authorized by law. What I'm saying, though, is that the evidence that was before the jury was insufficient for them to make that decision that they did today. That the findings that they made was based on faulty evidence, and in some cases, very this evidence that wasn't supported by fact or by truth. So that's what I mean when I say that the jury reached, I think, an incorrect verdict today.
Is Robert going back to Chicago pending appeal?
At this point, we don't know. I think at this point he may stay in this area in the Eastern District.
They want to thank you for speaking. They say God bless you. Will he have to have a whole new trial again?
One of the things we'll be asking for the judges is for her to reconsider the verdict and also grant him a new trial if she feels that the evidence, she agrees with us that the evidence was not sufficient. Then one of the things she can do is actually grant a new trial. So we'll be asking her to do that as part of our motions. Can
the jurors be coerced or paid off?
That's a very serious charge. That's something that we can't speak about at this point. At this point, we're just focused on trying to get the judge to reconsider the position.
Why wasn't the jury sequestered?
Well, I think in a lot of cases, what you see is the courts are moving away from sequestering jurors 100%. I don't think that was ever going to be an option. I think, judges and courts have been moving away from doing that.
Are the parents being charged?
As far as I know, I mean, based upon what happened at this trial with the evidence that was used, I doubt it. I mean, I think that that's part of the problem here is that there was a lot of evidence that originated from other places, and those people were not brought in to testify or brought in as government witnesses. And I don't think the jury really heard the process.
Will any of the John Does or Jane Does be charged?
That's up to the government. That's up to the government. You know, that speak for itself.
Yes, exactly. Um, do you think the jury believes Sonia?
No, because they found those racketeering acts not to have been proven. So those acts were not.
Do you think they believe as Jane Doe number 5?
I don't know why. Again, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why they made the decision that they made. It was something that based upon my listening and watching and looking at the discovery and then their underlying testimony. I'm surprised that they reached the verdict that they did.
How about Johanna Pitts? What do you think about her testimony?
Well, we're for the trial purposes, she was not identified.
Oh, she was. I'm sorry.
Yeah, she was identified, but again, having listened to the testimony every day and sat through the trial, I'll just leave it at this: that the evidence did not seem sufficient to convict her.
How many? Okay, has a judge ever reconsidered, or has the judge ever reconsidered, or is this formality?
Oh no, it happens all the time. In several of the cases that I've worked with Mr. Cannick, the judge has reconsidered verdicts. So.
Why they said they all were liars. Can we get the? I don't have that information. Do you think they convicted R. Kelly off of emotions?
Emotions. I'm not sure if they convicted him of emotions. Again, I can only go off of what it was, the evidence that was supplied to them, and based upon again my view and my hearing of the testimony, I don't believe that was sufficient to convict him of these charges.
What will happen to those people who was releasing information that should not have come out about Mr. Kelly, if any?
At this point, we're just focused on trying to get him out of this situation. That's 100% where our focus is. It has not stopped just because of this verdict. We will continue to fight 100% for him in all areas.
Let's see. I'll take a couple of more questions and I'm going to let him go because we're all just processing what's happening right now, and they have to be focusing on the next steps and moving forward in this appeal process, as also having the judge reconsider. Let's see. Some said they just know that was not a RICO Mann Act violation nor an enterprise. Do you have anything to speak on that?
Again, I mean, I think this is a very unusual use of the RICO statute. I think this is something that was very that was a lot broader than what RICO was intended to do, and basically criminalizing normal acts and saying that these are that you can pick and choose and decide whether you like the behavior or don't like the behavior, and because you don't like the behavior, that is criminal now. I think that's just a perversion of what the RICO statute is meant to accomplish.
And the last two questions, let's see. Do you think that so fast. Do you think the judge should have allowed the alleged victim to submit letters and not come to court?
No. Definitely, we wanted a chance to cross-examine them and test their story. And I think based upon how they testified in the cross-examination, it showed that they were not telling the truth and they weren't being 100% honest. So it's unfortunate that the jury didn't reach the same conclusion, but that's the way it appeared to us sitting there listening to the cross-examination. So.
Um, I want to know how soon is the judge up for an election? That's not a good question. Let's see. Also, the next question is: with each accuser lying about their age, would that be an entrapment of which clears him of the Mann Act?
Unfortunately, the testimony was that several of the witnesses, either lied about their age or didn't tell the truth about their age. Unfortunately, the jury still reached the decision that they did. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we're arguing that we will argue that the evidence was not sufficient. So.
Someone says today is a good day. Okay.
Yeah, you know, you can come sit down. Cool. You want to ask me something? No, I ain't gonna ask no question.
No. Not my brothers.
I'm gonna do the interview.
I know that's right. We here to support Robert Sylvester Kelly. You guys know, press or no press, I was gonna get in this mess, and I was gonna make sure I put the truth out. If no one else did, I came to do my diligence, and I hope that I done just that for you all. I know you want to try to get the judgment. What was the most? Okay. Do you think the Mann Act was used unfairly?
Definitely. I think again, when you have testimony that, it's a lot of behaviors between two consenting adults. I think, when you see that and you see that brought as either a RICO or as a violation of the Mann Act, I think that's just shows more why we're arguing that the evidence was insufficient.
Can you explain to us what the RICO charge is?
Well, the RICO charge was basically what the government's claiming is that there was a pattern of acts where Mr. Kelly, used a group of associates to basically target these women, corral these women, lock these women in different areas, and then use that to force women to do acts that they didn't want to do. And that's basically what they're claiming, that this use of the RICO statute was intended for, and that's not under. I don't believe any view that what the RICO statute was intended.
Right. And do you think with these type of charges that he was facing was sufficient to go to trial from the beginning?
Again, it appears to me that whenever I think people have to be very careful when the government is picking and choosing acts that they don't agree with and criminalizing those, and making those crimes. I think that's the problem. I think that's the real issue here, is that the government should not be the people. not be in the position of deciding what behavior between two consenting adults is a crime or not.
Do you think they misused and abused the word daddy?
Well, again, I think Mr. Cannick actually brought this out perfectly. In one of the email exchanges between one of the witnesses and a friend, they called themselves a name, and that name was fine for the government, but Daddy was not. So that negative name that the friends called each other, that was okay, but Daddy was not. So I think that was something that we brought out effectively at trial. So,
And then, do you think? Okay, we asked that one. What was the most? Can you appeal that the jury should have been sequestered?
again, we haven't even got to that point yet. We'll consider everything and anything, and if it's a valid point to raise, we'll definitely raise it.
And last but not least, one more thing. I'm not. Some of the questions I'm just not gonna ask because I think it's just common sense at this point, and I don't want to be negative. I want to keep positive vibrations flowing. So that's something I won't be answering or asking. With each accuser, um, no. Do you think there was any jury misconduct?
We don't. We're not aware of any at this point, but again, that's something that we will look at. We look at everything. We're making sure that we fight and continue to fight Mr. Kelly from this point on. We're not going to overlook anything.
Did you guys get a chance to actually visit with Mr. Kelly after the verdict was read?
We got a chance to just speak briefly throughout the day, um, but we will again bring in all the well wishes of everyone that participated today. Make sure he's aware that he still has fans out there.
Okay. Let me see more.
Okay.
What about his rights? Wait. So, who would be in charge of asking for charges to be brought against all of the let me go back. All of the RICO members since they are claiming to get the head of the proof?
Well, again, that's the government. So if you don't agree with what happened, you have to speak out.
Exactly.
Okay.
Absolutely. So that's something that we can do together. I'll work on something in the near future for us to try to get all this information out. Serious question for him: would he leave his underage? How? Wait. Double jeopardy. They want to know about double jeopardy. Let me go back. Double jeopardy, a case they bring up to get a new trial. Do you think this is double jeopardy at all?
Um, well, in the federal statutes, the federal court, as long as the person, if there's any difference in statutes between, whether what was charged before and what's charged now, if there's any difference, the Supreme Court case has come out and held that it's proper for the federal court to actually bring the charges also. So I think that's been already settled that it's not.
So after meeting with Mr. Kelly, how do you, what relationship have you formed with him, if any?
Well, that's person client,
Okay.
attorney client.
Okay. Do you, okay.
So I can't answer that question.
No worries, no worries. Okay. So we did that one. Well, if they know, please tell Mr. Kelly that we all the supporters love him. Even though R. Kelly is a worldwide entertainer, how was the conclusion that he toured for? How did they come to that conclusion that he toured for underage girls?
I don't know where they got the conclusion from. I mean, I'm not sure what the conclusion was because we don't get to actually speak to them and actually ask them questions. But again, I don't. Again, I can only say it 100 times that we don't believe the evidence was sufficient to support these charges.
And I totally agree with him as well. I definitely agree with Calvin Scholar. They want to know when the judge is going to be reelected. They want her out of there. This is. Do you think that Sean? please let Mr. Kelly know that we are all standing with him and we're going to continue to pray for him. And I'll leave that to be your final response.
I definitely.
If you want to add anything else to this.
No, I agree. We're all still praying for him, and we're going to continue to fight for him 100%.
Thank you so much. Anything else you would like to add? If I may have missed a question.
Oh no, I think everything was covered.
Okay, thank you so much. So that was Calvin Scholar, one of the attorneys that was helped representing Robert Sylvester Kelly. I want to thank each and every one of you guys. I wanted to bring this to you guys live and exclusive, something that you're only going to get here on Pieces of the Puzzle. You will not get this from any other platform, as the media has been lying. I do not support liars. I support the truth. I truly do agree and believe that the government failed to prove their case, as I am a witness who sat in the courtroom each and every day. I didn't see it. I could not have imagined this was going to be the outcome. And I am truly devastated, along with the attorneys as well. And my heartfelt prayers are going out to Robert Sylvester Kelly, and I want him to know that I'm here for him. You guys are here for him. This is round one, as Deborah Cannick stated, aka Mechanic. And I thank you guys for tuning in for this exclusive live only here on Pieces of the Puzzle, which is I am your host, Hollywood Next, Sexy Pieces, aka Sexy Next. And then I'm going to end my life always with a prayer and something positive. Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Everyone who doesn't love does not know God, because God is love. Hey, Keith, did you want to say something? Not yet? Okay. We're going to wait out on my brother, but I definitely want to make sure I extended that olive branch because we all are feeling some type of way right now. I just want to make sure that I bring this to you guys live and direct from yours truly, Hollywood Next presents Pieces of the Puzzle. That was my time. I enjoyed you all. I'll see you guys on the next live update. And remember to pray, keep God first in everything that you do, and know that God is a God of many chances. And this is not a loss for us. This is just round one. There's more to come. I will see you guys on the next broadcast. Peace.